When Shannon Sharpe raises an eyebrow, you know someone's about to get verbally escorted to the shadow realm. And after the Dolphins' absolutely unforgivable 33-8 loss to the Colts, it was Tua Tagovailoa sitting squarely in the hot seat. And folks, Shannon didn't hold back. Neither did Chad Ochocinco Johnson. This wasn't just a post-game recap. This was a televised funeral for Miami's hopes, delivered with the kind of biting what only two former NFL stars-turned-entertainers can dish out.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Complete with personal jabs, Vegas side stories, and exactly zero filters. Because when your quarterback coughs up the ball 3 times in a game that should have been winnable, nobody's reaching for the kid gloves. Tua threw 2 brutal picks and fumbled like he was trying to throw a birthday party for the Colts defense. And you could see it happening. That deer in headlights look right after his first read disappeared, the exact moment he panicked, dropped his eyes, and started flailing. Yeah, so did the entire stadium. And so did Shannon. "Oh nah, see," Shannon said, looking dead into the camera like he was personally offended. "You the quarterback, bruh. You gotta be the calm in the storm, not make the storm." And then came Ochocinco, shaking his head, practically laughing. He was looking like me on Madden when I forget the playbook. Except I don't get paid $30 million to do it in real life. Ouch. The tone? Savage, but not cruel. Not just entertainment. It was real disappointment wrapped in banter. Because these guys aren't just analysts. They're former players. They've been in those huddles. They know what it means when a quarterback looks flustered before the ball even hits his hands. And this wasn't just one bad night. This was the pattern showing its face again, which is exactly why the conversation turned explosive. Chad, half joking, but very much not joking, threw it out first. "Hey, what if the Dolphins called up Cleveland and asked for Shedeur Sanders?" Cue the record scratch. Shannon lit up. Now that's a conversation. Because Shedeur? That boy cool as a cucumber in a meat grinder. I seen it. Don't care if he's a rookie. He plays like a vet, like he got ice in his veins and receipts in his back pocket. And just like that, the discussion took off. Because suddenly, what started as post-game venting turned into a legitimate debate. Should Miami consider trading Tua for Shedeur Sanders? And honestly, it wasn't as ridiculous as it sounds. Let's unpack that. The Dolphins have been chasing quarterback greatness since Dan Marino hung it up. And since then, it's been a parade of almost maybes and downright disasters. Tannehill, Rosen, Fitzmagic, Tua. Every season it's this might be the guy, and every season ends with shattered hopes and a long, sad drive down I-95 to nowhere. And now, in year 4 of the Tua era, we're still here. Still watching him second-guess his reads. Still watching defenses bait him like a toddler with candy. Still wondering if this is just his ceiling, or if we're witnessing a franchise wasting another window. The Dolphins have talent. Tyreek Hill. Waddle. A fast, physical defense. A head coach who's drawing up Pixar-level motion plays. They're not a rebuilding team anymore. They're in win-now mode. Which means they can't afford a quarterback who melts like a microwave burrito every time a safety shows blitz. And that's what got Shannon fired up. "How you got all this speed, all this weaponry, and your quarterback playing scared," he said, smacking the table. "You can't be scared in South Beach. That city too loud for that." But Ochocinco brought the other side of it. He leaned back, grinned, and said, "All right, but you really gonna gamble on a rookie? You ready to throw Tua out the club and let a kid from Colorado come in and DJ the whole season?" That's the dilemma. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a name. He's the name. The prodigy. The spotlight. The quiet storm everyone's whispering about. He's not even starting for Cleveland yet. And half the league's already trying to lure him out like he's the NFL's next great hope. But that's what happens when you mix rare talent with composure that can't be taught. Shedeur doesn't flinch. He doesn't fold. And in a city like Miami, that means everything. Imagine it. Shedeur in aqua and orange, launching darts to Tyreek Hill like he's been doing it for years. running that offense with calm confidence instead of wide-eyed confusion, elevating, not just surviving. But here's the catch. That's a big move. Trading Tua would be the end of an era, a quiet white flag on a multi-year project the franchise wanted to work. It would mean admitting that the ceiling has been reached, that patience has expired, that potential isn't enough anymore. And for Miami, that's hard, because Tua isn't just some guy. He's the face of the rebuild, the comeback story, the "we stuck by him" poster child. But now, that poster's peeling. And if we're being brutally honest, the writing's been on the wall for a while. Tua's game has always relied on timing and anticipation. When it clicks, it's beautiful. But when it doesn't, when he's forced off script, when pressure comes fast, when he's got to improvise, he crumbles. Shedeur, he lives in that chaos. Reads it like jazz. Doesn't panic. Doesn't force. He's got that thing you can't coach, and coaches drool over that. Which brings us back to Shannon and Chad. Because by the end of the segment, after all the jabs and laughs and Vegas banter, it was clear this conversation isn't going away. Because fans are talking. Twitter is buzzing. Trade rumors, fantasy or not, have legs when the logic makes sense. And the logic here? It's uncomfortably compelling. Tua isn't taking the next step. Shedeur might be ready to leapfrog an entire generation of maybe QBs. And the Dolphins? They're standing at the crossroads. Do you double down on a guy who's stumbling when it matters most? Or do you swing big, really big, and risk everything for the kind of quarterback who might just take you where you've never been before? The answer? No one knows yet. But as Shannon said, one thing I do know, if I'm a GM and I'm watching Tua fold and Shedeur shine, I'm making calls. Because you don't win in this league by waiting. You win by moving. And Akasinko, in typical Chad fashion, sealed the debate with the most Miami line possible. Man, I'll trade Tua and my next blackjack hand for a quarterback who won't sweat in the red zone. Cold? Maybe. But not wrong. So now it's your turn. Would you pull the trigger? Would you send Tua packing for a shot at Shedeur? Let us know in the comments. And hit that subscribe button. Because as long as quarterbacks keep imploding and legends keep talking, we'll be right here, serving up the hottest takes and the coldest truths in the game. And Miami? Tick-tock. Your window's open. Don't let the storm slam it shut. Right now, the Miami Dolphins are staring out of one. A rare, golden opportunity to elevate, not just as a flashy, fast team, but as a serious, consistent contender. And the quarterback at the center of that mission? Well, he just got publicly roasted on national television by two former players who know what greatness looks like because they played with it, played against it, lived it. Tua Tagovailoa, not a bad quarterback. Let's make that clear. He's smart. He's accurate in rhythm. He's a good teammate, a hard worker, a locker room guy. But being not bad doesn't cut it when the rest of the team is practically begging for elite. Because Tyreek Hill didn't come to Miami to be an accessory in a rebuilding project. Jalen Ramsey didn't sign up to watch 3-and-outs and pick sixes. This roster is built to win now, not babysit a quarterback still figuring out how to stay calm after his first read gets shut down. And yet, here we are. Another blowout. Another confused look on Tua's face after a turnover. Another round of highlight reels that look more like blooper reels. Another episode of Shannon Sharpe staring down the camera like he's waiting for someone, anyone, to explain what Miami is doing. You got a quarterback playing scared, Shannon said, shaking his head. Ain't no cornerback scared of Tua right now. You don't fear a dude who panics when the pocket collapses. And you know what? He's right. Because it's one thing to lose. Every team loses. It's the NFL. No one's perfect. But it's another thing entirely to lose the same way, over and over again. Tua starts hot. Short passes look clean. Motion confuses defenses for the first quarter. Then the defense adjusts, disguises a little coverage, rushes with a twist, and suddenly it's panic mode. Eyes down. Feet frantic. Forced throws into double coverage. That 1 second delay between thinking and reacting, that's all it takes. Boom, turnover. Again. And that's exactly why this time people are talking about Shedeur Sanders. Because when a quarterback like Tua starts showing a ceiling, and it's lower than your playoff aspirations, you start scanning the horizon for your next move. And right now, the silhouette out there is shaped exactly like Shedeur. He hasn't played a full NFL season. Hell, he hasn't even started a regular season game yet. But somehow, he's already pulling gravitational attention from across the league. Coaches watching his preseason composure. Executives calling Cleveland just to talk. Analysts using words like it and rare and franchise. There's something about him that just feels right. Not cocky, not overhyped, just inevitable. So yeah, the trade talk sounds crazy on the surface. Trading your starter for a rookie with 0 starts? Sounds like fantasy football nonsense. But under the surface, the logic gets sharper. Miami's system needs a decisive passer. Someone who can read post-snap, not just pre-snap. Someone who can improvise without imploding. Someone who doesn't shrink under pressure, but stands taller, calmer, more focused. That's what separates the good from the great. And no one on the Dolphins' current QB depth chart checks that box. Now, let's flip the lens for a second. Let's talk about what Cleveland is thinking in all this. You think they don't hear the buzz? They do. You think they don't see Shedeur's market value skyrocketing with every passing week, without him even playing a full game? Oh, they see it. They feel the leverage. And they're going to squeeze it for everything it's worth. If Miami did call if they offered Tua and picks, do you really think the Browns wouldn't at least listen? They know they're sitting on a lottery ticket. A young quarterback with elite poise, a professional mindset, and, perhaps most importantly, a narrative that the league is dying to watch unfold. And here's the kicker. They're not even playing him yet. So the Browns are either sitting on gold or about to waste it by keeping it in the vault for too long. Meanwhile, teams like Miami are out here desperate for a solution. That's what makes this so juicy. Because if you're Miami's GM, how long can you wait? How many more of these 33-8 disasters do you endure before you admit, we've seen enough? It's time. And if you're Tua, how do you process this? Because he's not blind to the noise. He hears it. The whispers. The mock trades. The highlight clips of Shedeur dropping dimes in preseason. The hosts on every sports podcast casually suggesting that the Dolphins might want to start thinking about their future. Imagine being Tua, waking up to headlines that say trade Tua for Shedeur. Imagine watching your own fan base wonder aloud if your time is up. That's pressure. Real pressure. But the thing is, that's the job. Quarterback is the most scrutinized position in sports. And in today's NFL, you either evolve fast or the league evolves without you. Tua's a good guy. He's done everything asked of him. But that doesn't make you untouchable. This is a business. A brutal one. And if you can't deliver, there's always someone younger, cheaper, and hungrier right behind you. Someone like Shedeur Sanders. And don't think for a second that this is the last time Shannon and Chad are bringing this up. Because if Tua throws another 2 picks next week, if the Dolphins start 1-3 or 0-4, the conversation won't be a question anymore. It'll be a campaign. Hashtag Free Shedeur? Please. That movement is loading as we speak. And if Shedeur does get traded, watch out. Because no matter where he lands, the expectation is that he will deliver. He's walking into the league with his father's name and his own poise. And if that ends up being in Miami, with weapons galore in a system tailor-made for someone with his timing and field vision, phew. Defensive coordinators might as well start prepping now. But until then, the heat stays on Tua and on the Dolphins front office. Because whether it's fair or not, the microscope is zoomed all the way in, and fans, analysts, and maybe even teammates are waiting to see how long they're willing to pretend everything is fine. Spoiler, it's not. And if they wait too long, they won't just lose games. They'll lose faith, momentum, and eventually the window. So what do you think? Is it time for Miami to move on? Should they throw the Hail Mary and go all in on Shedeur Sanders before someone else does? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because in the world of football chaos, quarterback drama, and trade rumors, this is just the beginning. Tua Tagovailoa was supposed to be the guy, the answer, the steady hand after decades of quarterback roulette, the final piece of a puzzle that fans have been trying to solve since Dan Marino's last snap. But now, that puzzle piece looks like it came from the wrong box. And look, we're not blaming Tua for everything. That's not fair. The offensive line has been shaky. The run game disappears like a magic trick half the time. And sure, defenses are catching on to McDaniel's motion-heavy schemes and taking away those precious timing throws Tua lives off of. But here's the cold, hard truth that Shannon Sharpe kept hammering. If you're a franchise quarterback, you don't melt when your first read is covered. You adapt. You elevate. Tua doesn't elevate. He survives. And sometimes, he doesn't even do that. So when Chad Ochocinco floated that now infamous "what if they traded Tua for Shedeur" line, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a dare. A challenge to the Dolphins front office. A dare to admit what everyone else is starting to say out loud. This version of Miami isn't winning a Super Bowl with Tua under center. Not with that panic under pressure. Not with those third-quarter collapses. Not with that deer-in-headlights body language every time a pocket collapses 0.5 seconds early. And not when there's a viable alternative sitting out there. Young, hungry, built for this moment. Shedeur Sanders. Let's talk about him again. Not the hype. Not the headlines. Just the facts. This is a rookie quarterback with the mental maturity of a veteran and the composure of a monk. He doesn't just read defenses, he absorbs them. He's not just a dual-threat guy with wheels and arm talent. He's a field general. Calm, surgical, unbothered. You know how rare that is? The league is full of talented quarterbacks who flame out before year 3 because they never learn how to think the game. Shedeur, he came in thinking like a coach before he ever took a pro snap. And that's the kind of quarterback that changes everything. That's the kind of quarterback you build around. You protect. You invest in. That's the kind of quarterback you risk it all to acquire, if you're smart. So yeah, the idea of trading Tua for Shedeur sounds spicy. Reckless even. But desperate? No. It's actually calculated. Because what's more reckless? Pulling the trigger on a bold trade to save your season, or sitting on your hands while your franchise QB throws another pick into triple coverage and sends your playoff dreams off a cliff. Exactly. The Dolphins don't just owe it to themselves. They owe it to their window. This team isn't going to stay together forever. Contracts will expire. Injuries will happen. Stars will get restless. And if they keep burning seasons waiting for Tua to figure it out, they'll wake up in 2026 wondering how they let it all slip away. So here's what's really going down. Miami is at a crossroads. Option 1. Stay loyal. Ride it out with Tua. Hope he finally puts it all together when it matters. Pray the turnovers stop. Cross your fingers that the decision-making clicks before the playoffs, or before the fan base turns completely hostile. Option 2. Be bold. Make the call. Offer the picks. Offer Tua. Swing big. Bring Shedeur Sanders to South Beach and change the trajectory of your franchise today. No waiting. No wishful thinking. Just action. Because here's the deal no one wants to say out loud. If Miami doesn't call Cleveland, someone else will. You don't think Atlanta's watching this situation closely? What about Vegas? New Orleans? Even New England? Desperate for anything that resembles offensive hope? The line for Shedeur's services is only going to grow. Every week that passes without him starting or getting traded just makes the anticipation louder. He's not just a potential future starter. He's a franchise reset button. And if Miami sits back and lets someone else push it, that's on them. So what happens next? Well, that depends on how fast this team is willing to admit the truth. And if history tells us anything about NFL front offices, it's that admitting failure is harder than facing 4th and long with the season on the line. But if they do, if they swallow the pride, block out the noise, and go all in on a quarterback who actually matches the pace, swagger, and promise of the roster around him, it could be the move that changes everything. And you already know the internet would explode. Shedeur Sanders in a Dolphins uniform? The memes, the debates, the pressure, the heat, and, yeah, the potential. Because let's not forget what this is all about. Winning. Not vibes. Not sentiment. Not loyalty to a failed plan. Just wins. Playoff wins. Division titles. Deep January runs. Super Bowl dreams. And you don't get there by sticking with good enough. You get there by chasing greatness. Shedeur might be great. Tua, sadly, is looking like a cautionary tale. So yeah, Shannon Sharpe went in. Chad stirred the pot. And the trade machine lit up like a Christmas tree. But maybe, just maybe, they were saying what Dolphins fans have been thinking for a while. It's time. It's time to stop pretending. Time to stop hoping that things will magically turn around. Time to stop letting fear of failure keep you from reaching for something better. It's time to go get the quarterback who could finally take Miami where they haven't been since shoulder pads looked like armor and Dan Marino was launching missiles in high-top cleats. Because this isn't just about the Dolphins' next few games. This is about the next decade. So what would you do? Would you risk it all for Shedeur Sanders? Would you send Tua packing and embrace a bold new era? Or would you wait and pray and watch it all fall apart one painful drive at a time? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more chaos, more drama, and more real talk about the NFL's most unpredictable storylines, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, we're just getting started. And if the Dolphins don't make a move soon, well, Shannon's going to have a lot more to say. And something tells me next time, it won't be pretty.